Games and technology have evolved by leaps and bounds in the 3 decades since Sony's first console arrived on the scene, but it's impossible to deny the lasting impact the original PlayStation had on the games industry and pop culture at large. From the jorts-wearing Crash Bandicoot to the no-nonsense Solid Snake, the PS1 is single-handedly responsible for some of the most iconic video game characters and franchises ever, many of which are still going strong today. But which first-generation PlayStation games are the best of the best? It wasn't easy, but we put together our picks of the very best PS1 games, including some great exclusives, generation-defining icons, and timeless classics. Here are IGN's 25 best PlayStation games of all time. Number 25, Parappa the Rapper. Before Rock Band, before Guitar Hero, and even before Dance Dance Revolution, there was Parappa the Rapper, an unlikely rapping game starring a cartoonishly flat dog and his animal pals. Parappa won us all over with catchy songs and a quirky charm that stood out among other games that were seeking to posture themselves as extreme or hardcore on the PS1. Nothing else on the console looked like Parappa, at least until Jamie Lammer arrived. Parappa the Rapper is so iconic, it's not only one of the 25 best PlayStation games of all time, Parappa is also one of the top 10 dogs in video games, at least according to IGN. But hey, you gotta believe! Oddworld Inhabitants' debut project is such a weird game, a fiendishly difficult action/puzzle/platformer with a crazy Soylent Green-like story set in a completely fantastical universe. Abe's Odyssey is fondly remembered for its bonkers character design and deep lore, which directly feeds into its core goal, to help as many workers as possible to safety through a deadly factory. Escaping your evil corporate overlords is no easy feat, and meat-grinding machinery and murderous security guards stand in your way on every screen. What we particularly love about Abe's Odyssey is its unique features. In particular, its systems for communicating with and bossing around your fellow factory workers, and the ability to telepathically possess others or manipulate them into taking out your enemies for you. And of course, bonus points for having a dedicated button to make Abe fart.
Okay.
Number 23, Spider-Man. Developed by Neversoft, the studio behind the Tony Hawk franchise, PS1's Spider-Man served as the template for pretty much all the good superhero games that would follow. This was the first Spider-Man game many of us played that really captured Spidey's unique method of traversal, swinging between buildings, climbing up walls, and acrobatically taking down enemies. It's also filled with Easter eggs and secrets, including many Marvel cameos like the Human Torch and Daredevil, plus unlockable costumes including Spider-Man 2099, the Amazing Bagman costume, or even his classic Captain Universe getup. They even got Stan Lee himself to do the descriptions of each character in the character viewer.
The Amazing Spider-Man, one of the most spectacular superheroes around.
And yes, it really did make you feel like Spider-Man. Chunky, low-poly Spider-Man. Number 22, Medal of Honor. There wasn't an enormous list of must-play first-person shooters on the original PlayStation. The genre just wasn't as ubiquitous on consoles at that time as it is today. There are a handful that carved out a legacy like Quake 2 or Disruptor, but none did so more successfully than the incredible Medal of Honor. Wolfenstein 3D may be the granddaddy of FPS World War II action, but Medal of Honor, produced by none other than Steven Spielberg, was the series to really drag it into the third dimension. Its deep, superbly acted storyline, lengthy, twist-filled missions reminiscent of GoldenEye, and realistic weaponry allowed Medal of Honor to stand above every other FPS that graced the PlayStation 1. The Medal of Honor franchise might be MIA these days, but it was thanks to its success that Call of Duty emerged in the first place and became the FPS juggernaut that it is today. Number 21, Ape Escape. Nowadays, holding a PlayStation controller without the analog sticks feels almost unnatural, like wearing someone else's shoes or when your arm falls asleep after you lean on it wrong. But there was a time when the DualShock controller seemed like an unnecessary gimmick. How do you rally players to adopt this new technology? Well, you present them with the imminent threat of rampant, poorly behaved apes. As the title would suggest, Ape Escape tells the timeless tale of a group of mischievous primates on the loose. You're given the urgent task of subduing them with a variety of gadgets that are probably implemented by real-life animal control specialists, such as a hula hoop, a remote control car, and a device kind of like a kayak paddle that you can spin around really fast to achieve flight. Each of these gadgets is controlled by waggling the DualShock's right stick, a concept that was akin to rubbing your stomach and patting your head back in 1999. Today, such a mechanic would be deemed gimmicky, but the late 90s were a simpler time, and gimmicky stuff was pretty cool, not to mention Ape Escape's solid implementation really stuck the landing. Oddly enough, Ape Escape proved to be somewhat prescient. In 2016, a chimpanzee named Cha-Cha escaped from a Japanese zoo, and local police were able to subdue him safely, probably thanks to all the simulations they'd run in Ape Escape.
Gotcha! Yes!
Number 20, Crash Team Racing. While many have come for the Mario Kart throne, Crash Team Racing, surprisingly, is perhaps the kart racer to come closest. Long before its modern-day nitro-fueled remake, the original CTR surprised and delighted fans with a mascot racer worthy of excitement. Featuring a varied and fun set of original tracks, wacky weapons that smartly pull from existing Crash lore, and an innovative skill-based drifting/boost system, Crash Team Racing remains one of the more beloved entries in the kart racing pantheon to this day. Number 19, Siphon Filter. Pulling inspiration from hit games like Metal Gear Solid and GoldenEye, Eidetic Games, now known as Sony Bend, concocted its own unique blend of stealth and action to create Siphon Filter. We were given a good amount of freedom to approach problems in many different ways throughout the 20-odd levels of espionage action, largely thanks to a wide assortment of fun weaponry. Notably, the Taser, which reimagined a garden-variety, usually non-lethal stun gun as a comically overpowered device that would electrocute enemies so hard they burst into flames in a matter of seconds. Number 18, Soul Reaver Legacy of Kain. Perhaps more accurately titled Legacy of Kain 2, Soul Reaver Legacy of Kain is an incredible second chapter in which might be one of the most underrated game series of all time. Gothic and macabre, Soul Reaver is more like a grimdark Ocarina of Time than its top-down action RPG predecessor, Blood Omen. Shifting between the world of the living and the spectral plane to solve puzzles and traverse the twisting corridors of Nosgoth is just the tip of Soul Reaver's mechanical brilliance, and part of why it would prove to be deeply influential beyond the PS1 era. The characters and story, penned and directed by Uncharted's Amy Hennig, are miles above most games of the era. Despite a rushed and anticlimactic ending, Soul Reaver stands on its own and deifies Kain in a fantastic reintroduction to the series. Number 17, Final Fantasy Tactics. When it arrived in 1998, Final Fantasy Tactics was arguably the best turn-based strategy game ever to grace consoles. Even today, there are few in the genre that have even come close to matching its majesty. Its juxtaposition of cute, super deformed characters caught up in one of the most complicated video game plots of all time threw many of us for a loop. This is yet another game that, alongside Castlevania Symphony of the Night, proved that PlayStation didn't have to rely on fancy 3D graphics. All that considered, it's a shame we've never gotten a true sequel. Number 16, Ridge Racer Type 4. The words Ridge Racer are now best known for being shouted by an over-exuberant Kaz Hirai at E3 2006. Play the sound.
Ridge Racer!
But years before that, it was PlayStation's standout driving game. Type 4 hit a sweet spot between the sim trappings of Gran Turismo and the white-knuckle speed of Wipeout, carving out its own corner as one of the most popular games on the original Sony console. Number 15, Xenogears. Originally pitched as a plotline in Square's Final Fantasy VII, Xenogears became its own landmark RPG when it emerged a year later in 1998. Combining a martial arts-infused version of the active time battle system established in both Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger with an engaging story that weaved in and out of both sci-fi and religious themes in a style not that far off from Star Wars, it quickly became one of the PlayStation's essential adventures. Despite never receiving a true sequel, its legacy endures thanks to the spiritual successor Xenosaga and the Xenoblade Chronicles series, which continues to find a hungry audience to this day. Number 14, Final Fantasy IX. Final Fantasy IX promised a return to the series' fantasy roots, and it absolutely delivered. Knights, mages, princesses, crystals, and all of the Final Fantasy mainstays from the early days of the series were present and accounted for. But what people love the most about it are the characters. Wily Zidane, sad and naive Vivi, doofy loyalist Steiner, and a dozen other memorable party members and allies help make Final Fantasy IX an incredible way to close out the series' first steps into the third dimension. It paid reverence to the games that came before it, and it set the stage for the next era. It's a beautiful, moving swan song for Final Fantasy on the PlayStation 1. Number 13, Silent Hill. The original Silent Hill slid off the beaten path of the zombie survival horror du jour into something much more daring and unknown. The town of Silent Hill is an obtuse place to visit, full of nonsensical, psychosexual creatures that prod at protagonist Henry's sanity, much more Jacob's Ladder than Night of the Living Dead. Its foreboding atmosphere is made more unbearable by the fact that Henry is the definition of an everyman, and it's much smarter to run than it is to fight, wildly shooting at whatever the hell that is coming out of the fog. A defining psychological horror game, Silent Hill, and its sound design that still rattles around inside our brains to this day, is impossible to forget. Number 12, Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. Like its fuzzier Down Under brother, Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage smartly builds off the groundwork of the original game and offers a wonderful balance of challenge and fun. While the series would eventually lean more into playable secondary characters with Spyro Year of the Dragon, Ripto's Rage keeps the emphasis largely on Spyro and a richly realized world. Working with the theme of seasonal hub areas, Spyro's second journey spins off into a number of unique and memorable mini-worlds, from beaches to thundery hills to mountaintop monasteries. A plethora of side characters, a host of smart collectibles, and an unexpected adventure in the land of Avalar make Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage a standout in the great Insomniac trilogy. Number 11, Driver. One of the earliest games involving a car that didn't really qualify as a racing game, 1999's Driver is a unique blend of open-world mission design and destructive arcade driving action. While its ambitious sequel introduced novel new concepts such as being able to get out of your car a full year before GTA 3 let you do that, and the astounding ability, at the time, to render curved roads, it wasn't as impactful as the pure, unadulterated rush of classic car chase goodness from the original Driver. From the deeply satisfying squelch of crumpling steel under its detailed collision modeling to the surprisingly deep director mode that lets you turn your wildest mission and free roam moments into your own Hollywood action sequences, Driver handily e-brake slides into the PS1 Hall of Fame. Number 10, Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back. Naughty Dog's mascot platformer trilogy is synonymous with the original PlayStation, but it's the second of the three games that has remained in our hearts and minds all these years later. Crash Bandicoot 2 Cortex Strikes Back is a great middle ground between the original's platforming and Warped's expansive arsenal, techniques, and secrets. As Crash climbs his way up a series of chambers full of challenging platforming levels, Naughty Dog's gauntlet of jumping, spinning, and wowing offers some of the series' best levels, providing a true challenge but in a way that always felt achievable. Number 9, Vagrant Story. Vagrant Story is one of the original PlayStation's most underappreciated gems, a massive action RPG developed by a team that was churning out hits and helmed by Yasumi Matsuno, one of the lesser-known auteurs of the last 30 years. The title might not suggest as much, but it's actually set in the same realm as a couple Final Fantasy games, the aforementioned Final Fantasy Tactics, which Matsuno also directed, and Final Fantasy XII on the PS2, which he co-wrote. Vagrant Story is a game that in many ways almost shouldn't work. It stacks a ludicrous amount of systems on top of a plot dense with political intrigue, dark magic, and at least 2 textbooks worth of ancient history, but it all comes together in a truly exceptional experience. You manage special attacks, customize weapons tailored for specific enemy types, build your own armor, solve puzzles, and fight some of the hardest bosses this side of Dark Souls using a quasi-rhythm-based battle system. While it remains an oft-overlooked entry in Square's PlayStation catalog, that doesn't prevent this hidden gem from being one of the best the console had to offer. Number 8, Tekken 3. The universally acclaimed Tekken 3 remains one of the most respected fighting games ever made, but it was its astonishing ability to lure in players less familiar with the genre that helped make Tekken 3 one of the most iconic games on the console. Adding a third axis to the action and allowing players to dodge left and right, circling their opponents, it was a seismic shift for Namco's seminal slugfest. A cocktail of wacky cinematics, eclectic characters, and bruising beatings, the King of Iron Fist Tournament is the undisputed champ when it comes to PS1 fighting games, and it'll always remain up there with the very best fighters in the business. And at the very least, it's definitely the reason an entire generation of gamers knows what capoeira is. Cheers, Eddie Gordo. Number 7, Resident Evil 2. Resident Evil 2. Though it raised the bar for remakes thanks to Capcom's excellent 2019 do-over, the power of the original RE2 is still untouched as one of the original PlayStation's best survival horror games. Set in a bizarro police station, an elaborate evolution of the first game's haunted house theme, Resident Evil 2 combines ornate, weird puzzles with a plethora of nasties that range from the garden variety zombie to more out there monstrosities like a giant moth and sentient mutated poison ivy. Throw in a hulking, seemingly invulnerable tyrant that relentlessly pursues you, and the ability to play through from 2 different perspectives, and you've got an all-time horror classic. The original Resident Evil may arguably be more important, but Leon and Claire's escape from Raccoon City is undoubtedly the most accomplished of the series' PS1 outings. Number 6, Tomb Raider. The original Tomb Raider is at heart a haunting solo adventure. It's a quiet jaunt through an aggressive world home to real-life beasts like wolves and bears, as well as some more unusual options such as dinosaurs and cat mummies? While it cemented Lara Croft as a video game icon for several more generations, the original Tomb Raider should also be celebrated for its genius. Developer Core Design's team produced some intricately constructed and properly awe-inspiring environments. Plus, the thunderous blast of Lara's shotgun is one you can still feel through the ages. Number 5, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 isn't just regarded by many as the most monumental game in the series, and it isn't just considered one of the greatest sports games ever made. It's one of the highest rated video games of all time, period. Marrying exquisite arcade extreme sports action with a soundtrack that launched a million mixtapes, the original Tony Hawk's Pro Skater is one of the most influential and iconic games of its era. And by adding more moves, a simple but wildly addictive skate park editor, and a sack full of more searingly good songs, this stunning sequel became a spectacular refinement of the formula and an absolute cultural haymaker. Number 4, Gran Turismo 2. With all due respect to the original pioneering Gran Turismo, which is the best-selling PlayStation game of all time and the godfather of all console racing sims, but Gran Turismo 2 is everything the first installment is and much, much more. An absolute gorilla of a racing game so stuffed with content it had to ship on 2 CDs. With almost 650 cars from over 30 manufacturers, the scope of GT2 was unprecedented at the time of its release, and it dwarfed its otherwise excellent 1999 crosstown rival, Need for Speed High Stakes. The PS1 played host to a small but fondly remembered selection of serious racing games back in the late 90s, like the Toka and Colin McRae series, but Gran Turismo 2 is the biggest and broadest of the lot, and it's the only one that came with a scratch and sniff disc that smelled like a racetrack pit stop. No, seriously, it did. That's not a joke. I don't know why they thought that that was a good game for that. You could have made Crash with like stinky Wumpa fruit discs, but whatever, yeah, anyway. Number 3, Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Releasing an old-style 2D Castlevania on the PlayStation seemed like a strange move to some in 1997. Even IGN's original review reads, "It looks like the same old 2D platform action as before." Other classic franchises had already made the jump into the third dimension, and new games like Tomb Raider were showing what the PS1 could do that previous consoles could never accomplish. But keeping Castlevania Symphony of the Night 2D allowed Konami to refine the gameplay to absolute perfection, and its beautiful pixel art has aged a lot better than most of its 3D contemporaries. And then of course there's the incredible soundtrack, which fans will still hum to this day. Castlevania Symphony of the Night is about as close to a perfect video game as you can get, one that is still being copied and iterated on by modern developers to this day. Number 2, Final Fantasy VII. In comparison to the new and exciting remake project, the original Final Fantasy VII looks a little quaint. The winds of time and technological progress will do that, but this landmark Japanese RPG was a game changer for Sony. Not only did it see developer Squaresoft defect from Nintendo in order to use the power of the PlayStation to create the first ever 3D Final Fantasy, it also communicated that Sony's little console could deliver much more than just arcade and sports games on your TV. Final Fantasy VII showed everyone that PlayStation was the new home of epic adventures delivered on multiple discs. Those achievements may be a thing of the past now, but Final Fantasy VII's legacy endures because of the elements that refuse to age. Its cast of detailed, emotionally driven characters develop over the course of a journey that balances personal stakes against the backdrop of a looming apocalypse. Similar balance is found in tone. This is a game with weight and heft that thrives on idiosyncrasies, a variety of bizarre enemies, comedic minigames, and absurdly sized swords. And it's this combination of light and dark that makes Final Fantasy such an enduring classic. Number 1, Metal Gear Solid. Long before the intricate sandbox that was the Phantom Pain, or the twisting plot lines of the Patriots, or the bloated diatribes on the complex political realities of war, the third entry in Hideo Kojima's Metal Gear series stealthily infiltrated the PS1's library, and things were never the same again. Metal Gear Solid offers a singular blend of stealth action gameplay and couples it with a wholly bizarre yet utterly delightful cast of characters, and a story that challenges our ideas of traditional video game heroes. This pushed the boundaries of cinematic storytelling in video games further than they had ever been pushed before, and with it, established the now hallmark formula of Sony's blockbuster single-player games. All of these exceptional elements, plus some truly unforgettable breaks in the fourth wall, combine to create a gaming experience that still holds up as one of the very best to this day. And those are IGN's picks for the 25 best games on the original PlayStation. How did our list compare to yours? Let us know. You'll never forgive us for leaving off of the list in the comments below, and share your own personal list in the comments as well. Seriously, people are always getting mad at us for doing the ranking wrong, but like, you do it. Come on, it's fun. Try it. Seriously. I want to see a whole bunch of lists in the comments. Please, just put some lists down there. I would put Star Wars Demolition on mine. Not because it's even that good, just because I like it. Anyway, for everything PlayStation, keep it right here on IGN.